Judge Victoria Pratt, Chief Judge of the Municipal Court in Newark, New Jersey, treats defendants quite differently than most judges do. She demands that they write essays describing where they see themselves in 5 years. She explains legal concepts in plain language. She and her entire court staff applaud when a defendant makes progress by, for example, completing their community service or going through detox. Judge Pratt is a pioneer of what's known as procedural justice. And in a recent profile of her, The Guardian described the philosophy like this. The idea behind procedural justice is that people are far more likely to obey the law if the justice system does not humiliate them, but treats them fairly and with respect. Joining me now, the Honorable Victoria Pratt, Chief Judge of the Newark Municipal Court. Why is treating people with respect a revolutionary idea in our court system?
That's an interesting question to ask. I think that under the concepts and the tenets of procedural justice, some of the things that probably come very natural to other people in other professions sometimes get lost in court and also with becoming a judge. You know, the idea that you should treat the person with dignity and respect, but respect can be more than just good morning, sir, good morning, ma'am. It can also be how you address someone when they come before you. For instance, the transgender female who comes to court, whose male name is on the file, what the judge decides to do when they call them up and how that changes the interaction. In my instance, the person actually, when they came up, I set their male name very low so that it would be picked up on the record, but the female name, so that when she walked down, she was addressed that way. And she said, Judge, you know, I've been watching you and you're not two-faced. And I thought, look at that. She's telling me that she's judging me as much as I'm judging her.
And there are aspects of the American court system, which if you've ever even been in court for the smallest thing, for a traffic ticket or anything, that are set up to not lead us to this kind of procedural justice. Judges sit higher and look down. They talk to the attorneys and not to the defendants. Is there something that we could institute beyond kind of the individual revolutionary judge more broadly?
Well, actually, the tenets of procedural justice, I also practice them in the context of the community court, which for Newark is the Newark Community Solutions. But the idea that the defendant or the court participant should have the opportunity to be heard. And even if you're not letting them speak, explain why. I don't want you to make an admission. You're not represented by counsel. Also, that the proceedings appear to be neutral, so that they walk into court and the judge isn't just joking around with the prosecutor or the public defender. Those kinds of things are really important to the process. What was great for Newark was that when the court planners, the Center for Court Innovation, came into Newark, they immediately started to have these community engagement meetings where they actually asked Newarkers what they thought about the court, what they thought about crime, and what they wanted. And to actually have the community involved, telling the court, this is what we want to see. And overwhelmingly, they wanted people to receive assistance. They didn't want the drug addict that got arrested to get out 2 days later and then be, just be a drug addict again.
When you talk about the drug addict, I think it's also an important way of shifting our discourse about what's happening. So in the Guardian piece, it says that you estimate that 85 to 90% of the defendants have substance abuse problems and more than 40% have mental health issues, and that many have both. How does thinking about people as people struggling with addiction, struggling with mental illness, change how you respond to them in this context?
It changes how everyone in the courtroom responds to the case that's before them. Typically, maybe in a traditional court, you're just looking to get a disposition, and you're saying, why did you commit this offense? In these courts, we're looking at why is this person offending? We need to address the underlying issue. The ultimate goal is to actually not have them on this conveyor belt of justice. It's really to get them to have their lives together and to really support their families and support their communities. So when you have a prosecutor, when you have a public defender, when you have a police officer in the courtroom, you have court attendants who are looking and who have specialized training, and they use their own life experience to begin to look at the condition of the person who presents in court. It's a totally different experience.
I know why I, as a college professor, assign essays. Why do you, as a judge, assign essays?
Oh, the essays are awesome because the essays are about answering the question, and the answers are always inside. They are cathartic. They also require people to think. Some of my young guys or young women who come to court, no one has ever asked them, what are you going to do in the next 5 years? So they wake up, and when you wake up and you don't have a plan for yourself, then you become a part of somebody else's plan or their foolishness. And most of it is being a part of their foolishness. So I want them thinking about, what are they going to do in the next 5 years? How are they going to support themselves? How are they going to support their families? How are they going to make a contribution? And to think bigger than the four corners of the blocks that they live on. Really important that they begin to have that. I also give out essays. One of the more powerful essays, some of the older gentlemen who have lost their sons to the streets, to the violence, the gun violence that we tend to see in our urban centers. I'll give them essays that'll say, letters to my sons. Some of them have lost them, some of their sons are still alive. And those are so powerful because the fathers are taking time to apologize to their families for what they haven't done because they've been dealing with their own addiction. And they're powerful when a father is writing an essay and he's addressing his son who's in prison.
Accountability, and reflection, and that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Judge, I am a fan. I just really, at the base level, I am a fan of what you are doing in terms of procedural justice in Newark, New Jersey. Thank you to the Honorable Victoria Pratt. And coming up, a new report on the history of abuse for many girls in the juvenile system. We don't ask them either how they ended up there.